It's been a tough week for a lot of us, but community helps. So thank you for joining us on Comic Book Canon. Welcome to Comic Book Canon, your weekly show for comic book and pop culture goodness. Usually we are more energetic, more bombastic, more kind of in your face, having fun, but it's a hard time right now, and we want to acknowledge that. We want to talk about this because community helps, and I'd like to bring in my partner here, my co-host, Chris. Chris, how are you?
I'm blessed to be here and blessed for everything I have right now. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I feel we have like a lot to support on, especially the way that me specifically, I can speak for me, growing up with these heroes, these comic books, teaching us right from wrong, teaching us how to stand up for people who can. And I think now is a time that's so important to talk about these things and kind of bring up these lessons and values that we hold dear within these stories. It's just an important time for that.
Absolutely. And the first ever superhero was birthed. Superman, if you didn't know, was birthed out of that, from those roots. And then obviously the man himself, Stan Lee, really built Marvel Comics on that mission statement. And here we are, 50 plus years later. And these things that Stan was standing up for way back then, and what all these characters that he was creating embodied, are issues that we're still seeing that need to be addressed today. And I know we would like to share some words from Stan that he wrote some roughly 50 years ago that, as I just said, are seemingly to be still very, very relevant today. So I will read this along with you all. In the words of Stan Lee. Let's lay it right on the line. Bigotry and racism are among the deadliest social ills plaguing the world today. But unlike a team of costumed supervillains, they can't be halted with a punch in the snoot or a zap from a ray gun. The only way to destroy them is to expose them, to reveal them for the insidious evils that they are. The bigot is an unreasoning hater, one who hates blindly, fanatically, indiscriminately. If his hang-up is black men, he hates all black men. If a redhead once offended him, he hates all redheads. If some foreigner beat him to a job, he's down on all foreigners. He hates people he's never seen, people he's never known, with equal intensity, with equal venom. Now, we are not trying to say it's unreasonable for one human being to bug another. But although anyone has the right to dislike another individual, it's totally irrational, patently insane to condemn an entire race, to despise an entire nation, to vilify an entire religion. Sooner or later, we must learn to judge each other on our own merits. Sooner or later, if man is ever to be worthy of his destiny, we must fill our hearts with tolerance. For then and only then will we be truly worthy of the concept that man was created in the image of God, a God who calls us all his children.
Yeah, that's it's still as weighty today, and sometimes you think we're better off than we were back then, but things happening now just show you that we're not. And we're not a big show here. We don't have hundreds of thousands of people that watch us, but like we did want to address this because it is something that affects all of us within this country, and it's important to talk about. We didn't want to breeze over it, especially the fact that I live and breathe superheroes. From when I was super little, it's what I loved, and it's what I really learned a lot of my values from. And I think it's really important that we all stand up to things that are unjust. We all speak out. And me as a white male, I know I'm not racist, but I've learned some things about actually being anti-racist and being able to stand up for what's right, and being able to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. Not saying that there are a lot of people out there that can't, but it's just being able to just do the right thing.
Absolutely. And again, that ties back into the idea of superheroes and supervillains. I think when you look at superheroes, there's something imperfect about them always, and that's the humanity in them, and that's how they relate to us. But that superhero ability is what we aspire to be. And when you look at a villain or, you know, a bully, what is the superhero there for? They're there to stand up against the bully. And, you know, with everything going on, I'm the first to say we need to first have dialogue. We need to be able to have conversation. We live in a polarized time, you know, even before a world global pandemic, and, you know, before, you know, current issues of social injustice and racial injustice. But, you know, I always look at the fact that when we look at a bully in school, you know, we are not taught, whether it's by our teachers, administrative staff, or by our parents and just community in a whole, we are not taught to ignore that bully. We're taught to face the bully, even if it's one. If it's one bully, that bully is toxic enough to endanger the livelihood of others, of all the other kids on the playground, right? So we are taught, we have assemblies, we have, you know, we have nonprofit organizations that teach kids how to stand up to bullying. And I want everyone to understand that I really feel that we need to be we need to not be powerless in our approach. And it doesn't matter if it's just one. And you know, you can put it in the context of whatever context you want to put it in. If there's one bad seed amongst any of us, that one bad seed is enough to ruin it all. And we are only allowing those seeds to become more dangerous by sitting back and watching. And you know, again, we look at Stan's words from 50 years ago. This is the heart of Marvel. This is the heart of that silver age of comic books that created everything that we all love, that gives all of us purpose. And remember, a lot of us, we dove into this hobby for reasons because for some reason maybe we didn't fit in with the in crowd or fit in with that crowd, and we wanted something that we can feel a part of. And we have to continue to do our duty to make sure that everyone in this world feels included. And that inclusion bears down to the simplicity of our humanity.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm glad we were able to talk about this. It's important to both of us as we've been communicating throughout the week. There's not an easy pivot here, but we do have some news to talk about, you know, about our hobby that we love. So we're just gonna get into it. How about it, Chris?
Let's do it. Let's do it. That's why it's here.
So what we got first here, that this just came out today. This just was announced today that DC is going to cut ties. They're going to cut ties with Diamond Distribution. Most of you know Diamond Distribution is the main distributor of comic books, I do believe, in the world. Some go as far as saying they're a monopoly, and that's kind of where I lean towards. I feel like they are a complete monopoly. With this pandemic, Diamond decided to stop distributing comic books for an unknown amount of time to kind of reassess and reevaluate, and they had good reasons to do that, but DC wasn't having it. They wanted to continue to distribute comics, and they did. 2 weeks later, I believe May 27th is when Diamond got back up and running again, and DC had already delivered 2 weeks of comic books. But this is a shock because DC said that they would not be moving away from Diamond. Now that they are, it's got comic book shop owners kind of there's split down the middle in a way. Some feel that, you know, it's you know, they have to go through 3 more companies for distribution. That's how DC has set this up. You have 2 companies that are owned by actual comic book shops. DCBS, larger comic book shop. Midtown Comics, larger comic book shop. They have created companies for distribution, for distributing DC comic books. And then there's a third distributor that's just going to deal with graphic novels called Penguins. So the fact that these other comic book shops have to go through their competitors to get DC comics, they feel that's unfair. On top of that, there will be more shipping costs. You have 3 different distributors. That's a big deal as well. However, people are okay with it on the other side because they haven't had a good experience with Diamond. Diamond is known for not packaging their comic books well as their customer service. Chris, what are your thoughts on this? I know you have some experience with Midtown. I know you have experience. You have your thoughts on Diamond. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, I look at this from 2 standpoints. Obviously, just this situation in itself can really lean 2 different ways. I like to be optimistic that this shakeup can be a positive thing. Anyone that understands business, understands that competition usually equates to a good business, and they call it healthy competition. Maybe that's what we needed at this point. But my concerns personally, from personal experience, do circle around Midtown. Now, I live in California. I've never been into a Midtown comic store, but as a Midtown customer for about 7 years from online ordering, I have extreme concerns of their practices and their business model. Midtown has handled Marvel's print subscriptions for many years now, and I've had print subscriptions through Midtown from Marvel for years, where I can't countlessly have issues, missing issues. Their customer service has been really should I say a lack thereof. It's just been dropping the ball in terms of communication. I've even had situations where, I'll do preview orders with them and I'll get my monthly previews. Books will be missing, and a lot of their books, and I haven't necessarily had issues with, say, the boxes being damaged or anything like that, but their books that come pre-bagged and boarded always have this kind of black soot on the top of the boards in the bags. I brought this up to Midtown. They've acknowledged it. They said they know, but they've never given me a reason why. What is that? How are you storing your books? What is the conditions of your warehouses? What's the problem? And there's been recent issues right now where I've actually taken my previews business over to a different dealer. So maybe this is an inclination that they are saying, look, we're setting ourselves up as a distributor now, so we're putting so much of our efforts and our resources into that, and you're letting that 10 or 20% of your income, which is your little customers, your online customers, kind of go to the wayside. Still, that's not a business model, a good business model, if that is what's happening. But I have concerns with how they run things, what I've seen from them as a business, and how they're gonna move into this, moving forward in terms of pushing DC books nationwide and worldwide.
I'm not too concerned, honestly, because I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I like this disruption. I like that DC is going to be doing something different. I like the fact that it's breaking down this monopoly that Diamond does have. And for us as consumers, for us going into a store or ordering online, we're really not going to notice that much, because it's interesting. Right. Isaac Maynard asked, is it going to be harder for anybody to walk into a comic book shop and get the latest DC comic that just came out that week? No. And you know what? You may be even getting it a day early on Tuesdays now. Right. So I'm happy about this. I think it's like enough's enough, because I don't want comic book shops to go through a harder time. I don't want them to have to, to pay more for shipping. I don't want them to have the hassle of having to go through 3 different distributors. But that being said, on the flip side, this is only going to make things, in my opinion, is only going to make things better as a whole for the comic book industry and the way comic books are distributed. Yeah.
I will say, I look at the industry side of it like that. But I'm just, like I said, my concerns lie directly with Midtown. And I just hope that they handle business. They're not missing shipments like they do with their little guys, but from there, I would have to really align with what you're saying. I think this really could be a positive change moving forward.
All right. Well, speaking of handling business, there's been some more news on the departure of Ruby Rose as Batwoman. And this, again, goes along the theme of DC. What do we got, Chris?
Yeah, so, I mean, I was a fan of this show. We got the news that Ruby Rose will not be returning, and now CW has announced that not only will Ruby Rose not be returning to Batwoman Season 2, but Kate Kane won't be returning. And this is kind of blowing my mind, but there have been multiple sources, and it's come from CW themselves, that reported that the character Kate Kane will not be Batwoman in Season 2, and it will be a brand new replacement character going by the name of Ryan Wilder. And many of you might be thinking, what, Ryan Wilder? You might be picking up your phones, Googling, which Batwoman is that? Well, I'll tell you, it's no Batwoman. Ryan Wilder does not exist in comic book canon anywhere. Ryan Wilder is a brand new character made just for the show. And let me read to you all what CW had to say about this. Quote, Ryan Wilder, female, mid to late 20s, any ethnicity. Ryan Wilder is about to become Batwoman. She's likable, messy, and a little goofy and untamed. She's also nothing like Kate Kane, the woman who wore the Batsuit before her. With no one in her life to keep her on track, Ryan spent years as a drug runner, dodging the GCPD and masking her pain with bad habits. Today, reformed and sober, Ryan lives in a van with her plant. A girl who would steal milk from an alley cat and could also kill you with her bare hands. Ryan is the most dangerous type of fighter, highly skilled and wildly disciplined. An out lesbian, athletic, raw, passionate, fallible, and very much not your stereotypical all-American hero.
I mean,
all right, Jeff, I have a lot to say on this. I'll let you, what are your first thoughts here?
That's just, listen, I'm not an avid watcher of Batwoman. I've seen the first 2 episodes. I liked it. I thought it was going in a good direction, as most CW shows do. When they first start, it's like, all right, this is good. And then it kind of tails off a little bit.
Right.
That being said, from what I've heard, they left the first season on a cliffhanger. And you're going to get rid of Kate Kane, and you're going to bring in a goofy new Batwoman. That's not a direction I'd like to see that come in or go in. Again, you have more experience with the show, seeing all of last season. I just, the description of this character is like, what is going on?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, leaving the cliffhanger that this season was left on, I mean, there's a lot of explanation to do. And, you know, we already exist in a universe with a character that is basically taking the mantle of Batman. Batman already doesn't exist. You needed to create some feasible story to make that work. Okay, they did it. Now, Kate Kane is all of a sudden gone in the middle of a story arc left on a cliffhanger. It makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. And I think CW is taking a big risk here because, like you said, Jeff, I personally feel that every Arrowverse show starts off extremely strong and then just tends to dip off. And this was another breath of hope for me and a breath of fresh air with season 1. And I just really don't want to see this going to the wayside. And, you know, this is a character that, and hey, I'm all for a live action, whether it's movies or series, taking from the comics, but changing what they need to do to make it work. You know, if you want to read it exactly how it happened in the comics, the books are always there. But is this too extreme? Fan backlash, and will it actually work to carry on from the end cliffhanger of season 1? And CW, boy, you have a lot of explaining to do to be able to make this make any kind of sense whatsoever.
Yeah, look, we've been spending way too much time on the new Batwoman, but I do got to bring up 2 comments by Johnny Zuko here that cracked me. Harley Quinn was completely made up for the animated series. There is some precedent. Fact. Absolutely. 100%. This is what cracks me up. Ryan Wilder sounds like the female Jason Todd. Also, I think the second season will be a complete reboot. The Jason Todd comment. Jason Todd was never goofy. Well, he was just kind of an unlikable person. Anyways, speaking of unlikable
except
people,
as Red Hood. And then he got to Red Hood, and that started the craziness started coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he was dead for 30 years ever since you dialed in to say you wanted him dead. Anyways, moving on. We do have some Marvel news here. We have a rumor here that Evan Peters will be joining, is signed on to join WandaVision. A lot of people are excited about this, and they probably shouldn't be. But it's reported by a blog, Murphy's Multiverse, which was picked up by a lot of outlets, and a lot of people have kind of extrapolated and kind of got some sort of excitement because he did play Quicksilver. Evan Peters played Quicksilver in 3 X-Men movies for Fox. They are hoping that maybe due to the multiverse, he could be coming back as Quicksilver or a different version of Quicksilver from another world, because WandaVision does tie directly into Doctor Strange, the Doctor Strange sequel, which they will be exploring the multiverse. It's more than likely he's going to be playing the bad guy, like Mephisto or another villain. But a lot of people are really hoping that we'll see Evan Peters as Quicksilver again. I don't buy it. What are you thinking, Chris?
You know, and this is the fun thing about all these talks that are released on social media these days. But I'll tell you, you know, I Disney and Marvel Studios outside of Deadpool, I really think doesn't want anything to do with any of the Fox characters. It's like, seriously, it's like the Red Lobster franchise. If for some reason they bought out McDonald's, they still wouldn't sell Big Macs. So it makes no sense to me. They don't want any of this. You know, Disney and Marvel Studios is a whole nother brand. It's going in a whole nother direction. Hey, good for the kid is an actor to get a role. I think we're going to see him hopefully, like you said, maybe play a villainous character, and hopefully he'll be a shining star on the role. But it's not going to be his Quicksilver.
Yeah. Let's all wipe our hands clean of that and move on to maybe some optimistic news. What do we got, Chris?
Well, optimistic. I feel sorry for those that want that to happen, but okay. So, guys, talk about optimism in the world. Hopefully, getting back on track. We have to talk about what's going on with the movie theaters, and a big one for us that we've been waiting on is obviously Wonder Woman 84. Warner Brothers has announced that right now their Christopher Nolan film Tenet is still set to release mid-July, July 17th. If all goes well. What that means for Warner Brothers is that they can still release Wonder Woman for that August release date. Now, obviously, we seem to be taking steps in the right direction, battling this pandemic, but things could change in the next week, in the next 2 weeks. We really don't know, and I am all for this. I want to be able to sit in a movie theater in August and watch Wonder Woman. But I'll say this, if something doesn't pan out the next couple of weeks to where some reason this pandemic starts spiking, and we need to backtrack and keep ourselves safe, I'm all for that. I will wait 2 years if need be, if it means keeping the world safe and keeping people safe because of battling this pandemic. So, we'll see. I'm hopeful. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but I'm not gonna cry a river if it doesn't happen.
I'm laughing because Warner Brothers is not going to wait 2 years for this to happen. It will be on a streaming service before the end of the year if it is delayed. I hear you there, man. Like, let's just hope that all of this kind of reopening is good news. Let's just hope that things don't spike up in certain areas, and let's hope that people are able to kind of feel some sort of normalcy again and be able to go to the theater and experience these amazing films, these amazing characters together in a large group, because that is the best way to experience it on a huge screen with an amazing sound system. And I'm with you there, man. I'm pulling for it. So that being said, moving on to more DCEU news, it was reported again this week that Cyborg could be making an appearance in the new Flash movie. As we know from Justice League, Barry and Victor, they're buddy in Justice League, and in most recently, Ezra Miller's Flash made an appearance in CW's Crisis, and he mentioned Victor as well. So there's a lot of tie in there, and it makes a lot of sense to have additional DC characters in these standalone films. I want to see more of that. First off, DC has to produce. WB has to produce quality films, right? They have to continue to produce quality films. They started doing that Wonder Woman, Aquaman. We're starting to see that happen. Then it's putting it together as one big giant fabric, one big giant quilt for the DCEU to expand and people to be like quality movies and to grow it bigger, and for us to see even more characters that we love reading about.
Absolutely. And this is something that I would have liked to see happen after Batman versus Superman. Even with the backlash with that film, I think they could have introduced Batman a little differently. But that's all in the past. But I would have liked to see this, where you get a Flash movie that introduces a Cyborg character in all this leading up to Justice League. So that didn't happen. We talked about it feeling rushed in past shows, but here we are now. And maybe this is Warner Brothers taking a step back to saying, how can we really kind of keep the characters that are there connected, but still take our time to moving up into that next big thing, or next big story arc that's going to bring them all together once again. So I think this will be, although I do have my critique of Ezra Miller's Flash from what we've seen from him so far. I do think this pair has great potential to working well together in a film.
I think it would be fun. I think this Flash character Ezra Miller is portraying on the screen, he is goofy, unlike Batwoman, but mixing him in with a really serious Cyborg, I think that's a really nice balance of characters to see on the screen, and that's something I would really enjoy, and I'm all for. Again, bringing the DCEU closer together. Now, speaking of bringing in a cinematic universe closer together, we had a nice, interesting kind of. Some people may say an Easter egg. Some people may say no. This is going to lead to bigger and better things. Chris, why don't you explain this?
Yes. Have we been dealt with an Easter egg for fan praise to keep fans involved in the last little piece of what is Marvel Television, and that is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7. It's here, and we have a situation that continues to tie Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in with the MCU. And in episode 2 of season 7, we had a vial found by the team where character Gemma Simmons does state that this vial contains the super soldier serum, which was created by Dr. Erskine, and which was the doctor that facilitated Steve Rogers' super soldier experiment, who created the serum, who, as we know, first used it on Red Skull. And who did Gemma also speak about? Johann Schmidt, Red Skull. So this is obviously tying in characters from the MCU, storyline from the MCU. But my question is this just, them going out with a bang, doing some fan service, saying, yeah, here we are, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We were part of the cinematic universe. This is the last of Marvel Television before everything is streamlined under Feige, under Marvel Studios, on Disney+. Or could this be Kevin Feige saying, look, these characters have been involved. I still want them involved. It means something, and it means something bigger.
All right, first question I have for you. Who is your favorite Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Well, I got to say, Gemma is probably my favorite. Yeah,
I just had to ask you that because you made me laugh in rehearsal when you mentioned that. I was really excited.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for her accent, and she's so sweet that I just, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But here's the deal with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has always been in the MCU. Ever since you had the appearance of Nick Fury, ever since you had actually start from Coulson, Agent Coulson, from being in the films to being in the series. It's a continuation of the MCU. A lot of people are kind of discounting it because it was Marvel Television. That's not the case. You had Nick Fury appear. You had Maria Hill appear. You had Sif appear. So for all of those that are trying to discount this and say that this is fan service, I think that is absolutely ridiculous. This Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. television show has always been in the MCU, and that will be even further proven towards the end of the season where they actually address the snap.
Right. And just to finalize on that point, I mean, I do agree. And I, as a fan, I'm hopeful, but you really look at how much they did tie this in. And we know, Kevin Feige's disappointment with the Marvel Television side and whatnot. But again, I do think that what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stands for is kind of still close to Kevin Feige's heart. And when you talk about a character like Red Skull and the lack of utilizing him in the MCU so far, hey, bring him back. In what better way than to continue to tie in S.H.I.E.L.D. with that? And I think this will lead into something bigger. I'm excited.
Now, next thing I can hope for, and hopefully you will as well, and all the fans, is that all the Netflix characters are actually going to be able to be tied into that, because Daredevil is available to MCU 6 months from now. So, anyways, that's a conversation for another time. But a really good conversation that I'd like you to kind of spurn here, Chris, that I'd like you to kind of tell us about is what happened in Santa Clarita at a local comic book shop these past weeks.
Yeah, hey man, talk about, when the world gives you lemons make lemonade and all those silly little sayings, right? I mean, we've been kicked, we've been pushed down, we've been held down, so much trouble in the world, but how do we push back and continue to focus on giving back? And man, we had a comic book shop. Comic book shop, his name is Brave New World Comics, located in Southern California. Um, Andy Leigel, the owner of this comic book shop, was shut down when the pandemic hit. But instead of sitting around, he decided to be proactive and basically created a partnership with charities that help deliver free books to children in need. Now, he got an old truck and was able to load this truck up with comic books and trade paperbacks. And he drove through a low income community, stopped at foster homes, letting kids grab books out of the back of the trunk. Basically, he reached out to the community, and by May, he got donations of over 35,000 books, which is just crazy to think about. And just continue to have motivation, even while his doors to his shops were closed, to find a way to give back. Now, another really positive thing about this was other people started noticing. He had artists and writers in the industry involved donating money, which he then used to take stock out of his store's inventory to give more books out for free. And what's really amazing about this too is he did state that he will be doing this through at least the rest of 2020, if not carried on past that. And I mean, what an example, I really hope that this gets the attention that it needs. I hope that more communities, more comic book owners, and more people can get involved in doing things like this, because this is just what shows me, and we could tie this into how we started our show. Nothing is more important than our humanity, and even when it seems that we have our back against the wall and the world is on fire, we can stand up against that and show that love and compassion always prevails. And this is what this hobby is all about to me, man. I'm so happy that I could sit here and report on something like this today.
Yes, this is what we need. This is absolutely these types of things is what we need. Not only does it help the kids out there, right? It also helps a comic book shop, because you had people donating money to that comic book shop to put more books out there. So they're getting money during this time, during a pandemic, during the time that their store is shut down. It just helps everybody, and it helps the industry as well. It's getting new kids reading comic books of the characters that we love. More people involved in this industry that we love. So, I mean, can't say enough good things about this. And Brave New World Comics, kudos to you. You guys are outstanding, and we sing your praise. So that's all we got for the news today. Moving on, as we normally do, we get into the spec world. This is fun for us. We talk about the top 10 hottest comic books from the past week. We follow a site called coverprice.com. It's almost like a financial index, like NASDAQ or what have you. They base their data, their sales data. They base their top 10 list on actual sales data of all these comic books that have sold in the past week. And we have an interesting list. Last week, well, it was pretty much all Spider-Man except for one book. Isn't that crazy, Chris?
Right.
Yeah. So this week, you still got Spider-Man there, but one for a really bad reason, and there's some other issues here. Let's just breeze through it, and Chris will get into the issues that really stick out to him. So at number 10, we had Venom number 25. It's a 1 in 50 variant. It's that Pheno cover that I believe just came out. Ultimate Fallout number 4, the second printing, the first appearance of Miles Morales. You actually see his face on this cover. Number 8, Star Wars, Dr. Aphra number 1. She's a very popular character these days. Number 7, Amazing Spider-Man number 4, first appearance of Silk. Number 6, Amazing Spider-Man Free Comic Book Day from 2007, first appearance of Jackpot. We have Amazing Spider-Man 129, the Lionsgate edition. This is the first appearance of the Punisher that Chris is going to be talking about. Number 4 is Ultimate Fallout. Number 4, the first print and actually first appearance of Miles. You do not see his face on that cover. Invincible Iron Man number 7, the third print, a cameo of Riri Williams. Number 2 is Spider-Man 2, number 1. And number 1 is Marvel Action Avengers number 10. Chris, what do you find interesting about this list?
Well, yeah, some really cool books. I mean, awesome Venom cover for sure. And we all know that Miles Morales is hot and he's going to stay hot. But a few that really stuck out to me this week. Let's first talk about number 5 on the list, the 129, Amazing Spider-Man 129, Lionsgate edition reprint. Now, I'm going to take this from 2 perspectives. One, this book is such an iconic cover. It's such an iconic book with the first appearance of an iconic character with an amazing iconic cover. This book, the first printing, is really been increasing in value, and it's really tough for a lot of people to get it. So me as well, who has this book on their all-time Grail want list, I've actually been looking at reprints, or even the Marvel Tales number 106, which was the reprint that I believe came out in the late 80s. We know the Marvel Tales reprints all the early Spider-Man stuff. But then you got Marvel Milestone reprints, which I have of this book, and you got the Lionsgate one. That's more of a newer one. These are great because you can get your hands on a reprint or a different edition of this book if you don't have the $1,000+ to spend on the original. And that will drive the price of this book up. So don't be mad if you see any of these reprints going for 20, 30, 40, even maybe $50. But there has been injustice going on with books like this, and that is sellers, especially utilizing eBay or bidding markets, where it's not just a buy it now or online forum, where you have to communicate with the seller. But when you look at eBay, there's so much unethical behavior going on from sellers. And you'll take a book like this. And I want to give a big shout out to Comic Tom for pointing this out in a video that he did earlier this week. And I've been seeing it myself firsthand. You get a book like this, and the seller will put in the title, Amazing Spider-Man 129 First Appearance of Punisher, RP, instead of saying reprint. Like, RP isn't a known, that's not a acronym that is known, like, say, NM for near mint, right? That's not something that's used and recognized by the industry. Or they'll put some random talking point in the title and leave out that this is actually a reprint, and it's doing injustices to the value of this book, because people are buying this book thinking that it's something else, and it's driving what the market demand is seemingly stating for it. And what really rubs me the wrong way, Jeff, and I'll let you kind of speak on this too, and let me hear your thoughts on this. You have a company like Go Collect that is an extreme industry standard at this point, and we look to Go Collect, especially with their index, is viable in factual information, and they are stating this book's value not only to reflect the falsified sales, but they're stating that this is a type of rare book, and I think it's really doing injustice to the industry right now.
Yeah, it's pretty unethical to be reporting on. Basically, if you check out Comic Tom's video, he's talking about how people are driving the prices up by not being, the reprint, they're not being really explicit in their description of what this is, and it's driving the cost up. Which Go Collect, they aggregate that data, and they see that as it's a more expensive book now, and it's just really deceiving, especially to collectors, thinking that they're getting an actual crazy bargain for an amazing key issue, which I know is top of your list, Chris. I think it's unfair, and I think Go Collect really needs to look at how they accrue that data and how they display it.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, I can't, you take a look at all these sites, including Cover Price, they're taking raw data in, and that's fine, but it's just like especially if you're in financing or accounting. If you're an accountant, right, and you got to manage your books. You got to manage your books, and sometimes you don't get to that until the end of a month or end of a quarter, or however you handle your finances, right? So I get it. They're taking in raw data, but they have to manage their books, and they got to hold themselves accountable and responsible for seeing these and red flagging these and going back into to the industry, into the public, and saying, look, this is what's going on. We are flagging it, and we are speaking about it, because otherwise we're left in the dark, and it's not right, so ultimately I do want to see these companies that have public indexes really stand up to things like this and red flag these issues.
Yeah, it's absolutely not fair. All right,
Yeah,
but
for
moving
sure.
on, there's another issue that stuck out to you in this list. Tell us why.
Yeah. Let's talk about Invincible Iron Man #7, which is this specific issue that hit the top 10 at #3 is the third printing, and it's the look. This is a first appearance. I'm gonna throw a first appearance sticker on the cover so you can buy me. Book, right? This is Riri Williams' cameo appearance, yet it's picking up steam. Now, I've never seen anything like this really before where they've gone back with a third printing and stuck this kind of a badge on it with Riri's face saying, "This is my first appearance." Now, technically, this is still considered by the industry, by CGC, CBCS, by Marvel, by Overstreet as Riri's cameo. But it's picking up ground. Now, I know that #9, which is considered her first full appearance, has been hot. It's been often on and off of the top 10 for the last good some months now. So, that book, I bought that book a couple years ago for maybe $7, issue #9 in a near mint. You're lucky to get it between like $30-$40 now. So hey, if the issue 7 third print is a hot cameo at this point, and you could get it for $10, it might be a good option for some people. But it's interesting that this book shot up though, and you didn't see like #9 falling in line. I think #9 was there a couple weeks ago, but it fell off again. So hey, it's interesting, but why not? I think it's a good buy. If you can still find this book for $10 or under, I say grab it. Absolutely. Any thoughts on that, Jeff?
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's kind of like if you find it for $10, it's definitely going to be worth your while because let's face it, she's a character. She's an interesting character. Everybody's going to want an Iron Man back in the MCU, and she would probably be all of our first choice. You got Rhodey, who's War Machine. There's no way he's going to become Iron Man. So Riri Williams is up there. And again, it's interesting that it made it into the top 10 because you'd figure that the first appearance, which was in the top 10, would be a more sought after comic book. It is more expensive, but again, I really like your advice. If you can get this issue for $10, go for it.
Absolutely.
All right, so moving on, we have a very interesting #1 that I really am excited for you to talk about with everybody.
Yeah, this is a fun book. Marvel Action Avengers #10 just released. So I love that this book is at #1 because I think it's shaking the industry. It's doing something a little different. Most of you may know, some of you may not, but this is an IDW book. Marvel has gave licensing rights to IDW to produce their own line of Marvel characters. And this is a first appearance. It's the first appearance of Yellow Hulk. Now, the thing that's fun about this for me is that it's showing that in distributing can actually be a hot item and have high demand on the market. It really shows a lot. I think this is really the first. I think a lot of us when we think about Marvel, we want it as Marvel Comics, but IDW is really changing the game there. And right now, good luck getting this book for under $30, and it's brand new. And you may get a lot of maybe old school thinkers or old school collectors that say this is all due from speculators, and it's no fair because I just wanted to buy the new book for cover price off the shelf and I can't now. But hey, guess what? At the end of the day, it's exciting to me that this book is already going for $30+ because, like I said, it shows that this can really allow the industry to save itself in different ways. When you think about, hey, Marvel is sitting here struggling, saying, you know what, we're not selling as many actual physical copies of new books as we want. How can we save money and increase sales at the same time? Let's give some licensing rights over to IDW and see what happens. And now we have a brand new book that's like being speculated hard on and going for $30-$40. So I'm with it.
Now, you cut out a little bit there. I just want to make sure people understand that this Marvel did license these characters to IDW, and I brought this up. I brought this up with you earlier, where if another company is producing these comics and distributing these comics, what happens in comic book in the canon of Marvel Universe? Like, how does this fit in? Does it not fit in? That kind of bothers me as a kind of a purist when it comes to telling these stories and all of that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if this was brought up 10, 20 years ago, I would feel the same way with you. But I think with Marvel, especially more than any other, universe, they're just all for the last few years, ever since they did the last Secret Wars, they're all over the place. I mean, it's really hard to figure out what is canon anymore within the Marvel. Where does it end? Where does it stop for Marvel? It's such a mess that I think it almost doesn't matter to a lot of people anymore because it's so hard to follow. And I think that there's opportunity to still bring this character over into Marvel canon, so forth. I mean, look at what they did with Harley Quinn, right? I mean, Harley Quinn came out in the Batman Adventures, where you take this cartoon that isn't necessarily in canon with with actual the DC universe, and that's what the Batman Adventures comic book was very similar to what IDW was doing with their Marvel action stuff, where it's tended a little more to the younger readers, and it's just a more fresher a vibe. But now Harley Quinn is a DC icon. She exists in canon and it's all over the place. So maybe we will see Yellow Hulk somewhere down the line in actual Marvel canon, whatever that looks like these days.
That'll be interesting. Isaac Maynard had a good point. It was so good seeing IDW books back in the value. Margaret, it makes collectors want to come in. That's a very, very good point. All right, well, that's what we have for Spec Week this week. Again, it's always exciting seeing these lists. I love the fact that you guys are into it too. I love that we get to just kind of riff off of this and just give our theories as to why these make it into the top 10. So again, we'll be back next week with our Spec World view. That being said, last week we asked you guys, is what we call a call to action here. We asked you guys for your comic cave CBC, but due to the events of this past week, we just didn't feel right about kind of reposting on social media and reminding you guys to send us your comic cave. What we wanted was your comic book cave, your kind of sanctuary of where you just retreat and hang out and just immerse yourself in this hobby that we love. So we hit up a few friends just to kind of have them send us theirs. But I think we're going to ask you guys we're going to put it out next week, a bigger social media push, and try and get all your guys' comic book caves next week. But we'd like to share a few here with you. The one that started it off was Captain Journal Comics himself, Chris. Chris, you have a stellar room here. Let's just share it with everybody. It was on his tour last week, which we still need to post, his room tour. We'll post that on our YouTube channel, but check this out. I mean, this is a comic book shop, Chris. What do you got here? This is over 16,000 comic books. I mean, what is not to love about this? How long did it take for you to put it together?
30 plus years. I mean, yeah, it's been over 30 years for me, and I'm grateful. I tell the story on my channel a lot, but what you are looking at is my garage. Those two walls, you see two walls there, right? One with the shelving unit on it, and then one with different kind of units on it. Those walls I built. My dad helped me out. We built those two walls in the garage. The ceiling with the ceiling fan. We built the ceiling itself as well. Carpeted the room, and I built the main comic book unit that you see by myself as well. And so even though I've been collecting for over 30 years, and my collection was a solid collection, I didn't have really a great place to store it until 5 years ago. So when we built this room, that's when the idea of having that specific space to really just have everything and be able to veg out and come out here started happening. And I am so grateful for it. I'm glad I can share it with my kids, because the other half that you don't see is the gaming area. So it's cool to be able to have this and be able to share it with them for sure.
Well, we're happy that you were able to share it with all of us. I think it's amazing. It literally looks like a comic book shop. Moving on, though, we had Comic Book STL, which I'm thinking his name is actually I'm thinking he's from St. Louis. You think that's a stretch there?
I would say so.
Okay. So he sent us in a few of his area. It's not really like as encompassing as yours is, but I really liked what he sent here. We have the Thanos Funko Pop, where the one where he's on the planet before he gets his head chopped off in Endgame. Right in front of the 8.5 Infinity Gauntlet. I think that's well played positioning. Wouldn't you say, Chris?
Yeah. I'm interested in seeing what those other slabs are there. I'm curious. I see Spider-Man hanging down, so I'm going to assume that that's the first cover appearance of Venom, ASM 316.
That's a good call.
For my comic knowledge
I bet
there.
you it is. It looks like that color there, and you see kind of a part of a body that looks like it could be Venom. I'd have to say that is a really good call, actually. All right. But he also sent us some more pictures here as well, where we have some more Funko Pops, the Professor Hulk, Vision, Iron Man in front of his graphic novels there. But what I really love about this room, Chris, and I'm sure a lot of people do it, is the file cabinet he stores his comic books in. That is extra protection, really impressive. I really don't have it in me or the space to be able to do this. Granted, my collection is a quarter of yours, Chris, but I really like the organization there. It's very clean. It seems like it's easy to get to there.
Absolutely. I would hope one day that I can do some filing cabinet units as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would like to try that as well. All right. Next up, we have Mr. Gretzky, 966. Mr. Gretzky. I would assume that's with he's a Wayne Gretzky fan. So what we got here is he has two rooms, actually. That's kind of rare, I would say. If you have the real estate in your house to have two rooms that are dedicated to your hobby, kudos to you. Right here, it looks like he's got his kind of like his organization. Like it looks like he bags and boards at this table while he watches some films. He's got the Labyrinth poster in the background there, and it looks like some sports cards. So that's pretty comfortable right there. And having that much space to be able to just organize and put in boxes, I don't think you even have that, do you? Oh, you do have a spot, right? But it's not like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, you guys probably saw the table desk or the desk counter in that picture. So that's basically where that is. And I do have my pressing station. So that pressing station wasn't in the picture. So what I do is I'll I have my system, I go from left to right on the main desk there. And then if I need to press books, I'll bring them over to the pressing station. But the one thing that I don't have, because this is my station. It's a solid tabletop and it's wide, because it's as wide as the unit. But so I go, I organize and I have I do this whole thing. It's like a manufacturing line, right? And then down to the press station. But the thing that I don't really have because of this is the ability to sit and do it like Mr. Gretzky. I mean, I do have my stool that I could sit here and at an angle reach over, but I don't have any leg room. I can't sit back and relax. So, man, I'm constantly on my feet. So I like what Mr. Gretzky did there, because it looks like he can really relax and enjoy himself.
You got pros and cons there. By the way, Comic Book Ben is wondering if we're doing room tours. We are doing room tours. We're going to ask you guys, follow us on social media at Comic Book Canon, specifically Instagram. We're going to be doing a push, hashtag Comic Cave CBC. Give us your room tour, whether it be video or stills. We're going to share it next week. But we had a few of our friends do some of these for us now, because actually we got to get back to Mr. Gretzky's second picture here, his second room, which is it seems a bit more comfortable, probably where he chills out, reads his comic books, definitely has his organizational skills down pat there. I see a stack of books, I don't know, across from the bed. I like what he's got going there. I like the space that he has and how everything is kind of structured for him. All right, moving on. Next up, we got 40 years of comics, and he has. I think you got some competition here, Chris. This is really nice setup he has. As you can see, going down the steps, I'm assuming that's to the basement. He's got his graphic novels up against the wall. He's got posters. He's got some pictures there. You know what you're getting into as you walk into that space, and I love that, right? you're just prepping everybody, all your guests, or even yourself, just to get in the mood, get in the moment as you go downstairs and you get to check out these beautiful walls full of all of your beautiful collections. You got graphic novels there, more pictures, more posters, maybe even hanging some actual books on the wall there. I'm really liking what he's got going on. And it continues. I'm assuming he has 4 walls, because here's another wall here. Tons of stuff. I mean, tons. And then finally, he's got his long boxes right here as well, which don't really rival yours, but are probably more than the average collector, I would say. Well done, 40 years of comics. Thank you for sending those in. Next up, we have...
Real quick, I just want to add real quick. I think I'm going to make an assumption here. 40 years of comics, don't kill me for saying this, but I'm going to assume one of 2 things. Either 40 years of comics is a bachelor and he's enjoying single life, being able to have all that space to himself, or he has an amazing partner that lets him take over the house. Because I'll tell you, if you're married or you have a family, good luck having more than one room to be able to display your stuff. And hey, that might be this room is already getting filled. And when I start, running out in here, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I might have to move out.
I mean, yeah, kudos to Mr. Gretzky as well, because he's got 2 rooms dedicated to his house.
That's right.
So, thank you to all the partners that are what are the words I'm looking for here, that are very supportive of our wonderful, wonderful hobby. All right. And finally, we have Don, the comic book junkie. Don sent us in his pictures on Instagram here, and they do not disappoint. Check this out. Long box on long box, right? Am I right here? You got to follow these guys too, by the way. So at Don Comic Book Junkie, many long boxes we see here. He's got some action figures up on the wall as well. Got some of those long boxes open in the foreground. Really like what I see so far. In the second picture, this is where he's displaying his art, like his.
I got 2. You can see 2 Journo Comics exclusives in there.
Get out of here! Which ones?
It's okay. So if you're looking in the middle of the screen, it's the Wolverine to the right with the red sun behind him, and then the one to the left that's a classic yellow and blue. Kind of hard to see, but they're in there.
That's outstanding. Yeah, you all got to check out Chris's work at Journo's Comics. He does some really, really good. That last piece you did was excellent. But getting back, we're going through Don the Comic Book Junkies setup here, and here's even some more comic book boxes. I mean, he has got it going on. I really like it. Again, he may as well open up a comic book shop there.
Yes. Do you know how many he owns, Jeff?
I do not know.
You want to make a guess?
Oh, wait a minute. No, I saw it. I do know.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Know.
Yeah. 20. You think my 16,000 plus is amazing?
Yeah.
I see. Here's actually. You know what keeps me going is Dawn, because for the last almost 5 years I've been trying to play catch up, because he's at 25,000. So that's what keeps me motivated. That's what keeps me broke, because I'm constantly trying to chase Dawn.
To be fair, he just posted 26,000. Over 26,000.
Oh, did he hit 20? Oh yeah, yep.
And is it really that competitive with you? Are you that competitive?
Well, it's kind of like, I would say it's like this. It's like Barry Bonds chasing Babe Ruth or Hank Aaron's, right? With home runs. So he's my idol. I will say, Don Comic Book Junkie is a big reason why I'm even here today, why I even started doing anything on YouTube. And I just appreciate him, and getting to know him over the years. So it's not that it's necessarily competitive. It's more of like aspiring to be. I aspire to achieve those goals.
Well, we all thank you for sharing your goals and sharing your achievements with us. We're going to push this for next week. We're going to push this call to action. Hashtag Comic Book Cave right here. Comic Book Cave CBC. I see Comic Book Ben. You were asking about if we're doing room tours. Whatever you want to share with us, feel free. If you want, send them to us. We'll we'll be happy to share them on the show for next week. So that concludes our Comic Book Cave CBC segment. We'll do it again next week. We'll make a proper push for it. That being said, we're going to move on to questions. There's not that many questions we have going on here, but there's one really good question that we have here, and that comes from Johnny Zuko. And this is I don't know. I don't have an answer right now. Who would you guys cast as Batwoman? God, that's tough. That's really because what are we talking about? Are we talking Kate Kane Batwoman? Or are we talking
right?
What's the new Batwoman's name?
I forgot already.
Yeah, exactly. So
out of mind.
Batwoman.
Ryan Wilder. Brand new character. Yeah, I can't answer that. You know, you got to keep it in perspective. It's a CW show. A lot of the characters, a lot of the casting from the show has been, you know, especially for the young superhero characters, has been fresh blood. You know, this is really tough, especially since I think you have a hard act to follow. I think Ruby Rose did an amazing job. And like I said, this is just kind of uncharted waters here with the fact that they're not just recasting Kate Kane. This is a brand new character that we've never seen before. This is going to be a challenge in more ways than one. I have no idea what they would be doing, looking for casting, you know, and don't take this as insensitive, because I like reading the comics to watching the character. Ruby Rose's personality, the fact that she's a lesbian, LGBT community, I think because she's such a unique character because of all these attributes, and you're bringing a fresh character in that's completely new, but yet seems to have a lot of these same attributes. Although they say she's so different than Kate Kane, you know, you got to find someone that can really embody that. You don't want it, and I know this is a sensitive issue, but you don't want it to be a character that is trying to, you know, make like a social statement, but it seems like it's not genuine. You know, I know Ruby Rose is actual LGBT in real life. She played the character. You know, you want to get someone like that too. You want to get a character that is truly identifies to this character in real life, I think, to make the character be more genuine. So, you know, I don't really know what's out there. I think CW did a good job with Ruby Rose. Let's hope they do a good job with this.
Yeah, I agree. Trusting the process with CW. And I agree, you know, casting somebody who is LGBTQT as well. The first person that does come to mind, I don't think she falls under that, it's a shoot for the stars kind of thing, because I'm not going to limit us here to it's a CW, you gotta take this type of an actor, not the one that does all the film, but Rachel Brosnahan. She's Miss Maisel in The Fabulous Miss Maisel. That girl, she is a fantastic actress, and I think she would be able to bring her chops. She would be able to bring that to that role. Granted, I don't know. That's a really good question, Johnny Zuko. We're usually Chris or I are not at a loss for words. This is the first time in the history of this show, which has been 4 episodes, where we have been. But that's it. It's looking like we don't have any more questions. We really appreciate you guys all for joining us tonight. It's been it's been a rough week. You know, this community, this hobby that we all love, it teaches values. It teaches us to do the right thing. Just be good people. Look inward to yourself and see how you can make this world a better place. I know it's cheesy, corny, and cliche, but honestly, it's what we need.
Absolutely. And I just want to keep encouraging people to have the conversation. You know, understand that when we stop having conversations is when we stop progressing anywhere. And we've came so far from being able to do that. I mean, you know, whether it's politics, religion, race, and whether it's comic books, you know, just DC versus Marvel. I mean, we have to understand that we can come to the table with different points of views, different perspectives, and have a conversation. At the end of the day, yeah, like you said, we got to be conscious of just doing the right thing in life, and just being good people to each other. We need that. I always like to live on, and what I built my platform on with Journos Comics is the fact that, we have more in common than where we differ, and that's where we need to unify. The color of our skin doesn't matter, and where we pray to God, or what God or what church, or our gender, or anything, our upbringing, none of that matters. We can connect on commonalities and understand that we are more alike than different, and we need that more now than ever. And I'm glad that we can have a platform like this, with a hobby like this. Thank you to people like Stan Lee, who came from certain elements of oppression and war-torn times and all this stuff, to say we need to fight for those that don't have a voice, and by doing so, continuing to perpetuate that for generations to come. And I hope that everyone watching can pick things out of that, and hold those close, and keep moving forward on the right direction.
Yeah, well said. We're just going to end on that. Be good this week, all. Thank you again for watching. We will see you next week.